Hey guys, Jared here from Deere Country Farm and Lawn, and today we're going to take a look at the removal and install of the John Deere 260B backhoe. Let's get started. All right, so I'm standing next to a model year 2023 John Deere 1025R, and it has a John Deere 260B backhoe. Before we get started here, just a couple things to note: that the procedure for this install and removal will be the same also for the 260 backhoe, which is the older generation backhoe of this 260B. There are some differences when it comes to how things are unhooked, such as your main boom and then also your stabilizers. But effectively the procedure is going to be the same. Also good to note that the 260B backhoe does come on the 2025R as well. The procedure will be the same for that as well. So let's get started here. First thing we're going to do is we need to make sure that our unit is parked on a nice level flat surface. Something like a driveway or a garage is always preferred. You can do this in the grass as well. Just make sure that it is parked, like I said, on a level surface. So before we start the tractor up here real quick, we're going to go over a couple of the steps. First, what we're going to do is we are going to lower the stabilizer arms down. We are going to get them to touch the ground. We're not going to get them to lift the back of the tractor up. We're just going to get them to ever so slightly touch the ground. After that, we're going to unlock our main boom, and we're going to lower that down with the bucket being flat and level facing the tractor. Once we do that, we'll be able to remove the pins and lift the tractor or lift the backhoe off the tractor here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started up, and we're going to do this step by step. All right, so on the John Deere 260B backhoe, your stabilizers are right here, and the controls for them as well are located right here. On these models, like I said, they do have on the 260B, the updated versions for 2023, they do have a latch that you would just lift up. On the older models, you will have a pin that you will have to remove. So on this one, I'm just going to hold this up, and I'm going to use the control, which is located right here, to lower that down. And simply just push down on that. And like I said, I don't want it to lift the tractor off. I just want it to ever so slightly touch the ground, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side here real quick. All right, good. We got both of those lowered down. Now what we need to do is we need to lower the main boom down right here. Again, this is an updated 260B backhoe, so in order to do that, you have a latch right here for this. On the older models, it will be a pin that you will have to pull up and out. If your backhoe has been sitting for a while on the tractor, keep in mind that most likely that boom has drifted down a little bit as well. And it's going to be stuck against this. You might not be able to easily just lift this up, so you're going to have to raise that boom up towards the tractor, and you're going to have to pull this back. So as you can see, it's kind of stuck there, and it'll come loose. So just lift this up. Again, one more time, the mechanism on these newer backhoes is just going to be a lift up like that, okay? The control for this main boom is located right here. And like I said, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to lower that main boom down. We're going to keep our dipper stick vertical. We're not going to change that. We're just going to lower this down, and we're going to take our bucket control and we're going to level the bucket out, as you can see right there. Now what we want to do in this procedure is we want it to touch the ground, and we want it to lift up a little bit. We want to take pressure off of our mounting pins, and I'll show you where those are located here shortly. So ever so slightly, just push down a little bit more, kind of put a little tension on it, as you see right there. The pins for your frame are located right here. You can see them right here, and you're going to remove those. You're going to remove that by simply sliding them out, and you're going to do that on both sides. Now they have a lock position where they are held down in the backhoe like this. You will have to pull this up in order to wiggle them loose. If you need to, just adjust that main boom back and forth until you get the pressure relieved on the pins so you can slide them out. Sometimes if you go too far, it'll be too tight. They won't want to come out. Same deal if you don't go far enough. It'll be too tight. You won't want to get them out. Let's take a look at the other side. We'll get those out. And we're just going to slide those out just like that. The next step, in order to raise the backhoe off the subframe mount, is we are then going to take our main boom and we are going to slowly raise up on that. When we raise up on that, the backhoe then is going to lift itself off of the subframe and come right off the tractor, and at that point we're going to go ahead and stop so we can talk about the next couple steps here. So we're going to raise up your main boom, and if you want to look right here down in this part right here, you'll see how when I raise that up, that backhoe is going to come right off that subframe. So what I'm going to do is just pull back on that, and it raises right up and out of there. I'm going to go ahead and turn the tractor off here real quick. That way we can talk about the next couple steps and we can move on to part 2. All right, guys. So we got the backhoe off of the subframe of the actual tractor itself. What we want to do here is talk about a couple things before I start the tractor up. The next couple steps here is going to be moving the tractor forward far enough that when we lower the backhoe down to the storage position, you'll have plenty of room and you won't end up coming in contact with that subframe mount again. We will then be raising the stabilizers and main boom up, putting them in their storage positions, and then unhooking the hydraulic Power Beyond kit as well. So let's get to it here real quick. I'm going to go ahead and start up the tractor, and like I said, we'll talk through the steps here as we go. All right, so when we move the tractor forward, we're going to want to keep an eye on our Power Beyond kit. We don't want to stretch out those long lines too far. You can end up causing some damage to the hydraulic system. So what we want to do is move it about 5 to 8 inches forward, just far enough that when we lower this down, it's going to end up clearing the tractor and not hitting it. So keeping an eye on it, just move the tractor forward. And that should be good enough right about there. At this time, we're going to want to go ahead and lower the backhoe down to the storage position. We are going to do that by raising the main boom up and also raising the stabilizers up before turning the tractor off and unhooking the hydraulics. So with your main boom located right here, the control for it, we're going to slowly pull back on that. We're going to raise that up to the lock position. The lock for that is located right here. Previously mentioned, the older units, you'll have a pin that you'll have to insert in order to put that lock on, but we want to make sure that we lock that down. Next, we're going to be doing the stabilizers. Controls for the stabilizers, and we're going to lower those all the way down until the backhoe rests on the ground, and they go all the way up to the lock position. So I'm going to go ahead and start to raise them up on both sides. And take them all the way down, nice and easy, and then you're going to go ahead and raise them to the lock position. Next step, once the backhoe's in the resting position, we're going to go ahead and turn the tractor off real quick and unhook the hydraulic system over there on that side. So hydraulic systems do have fluid in them, and yes, there can sometimes be pressure in line, so you always want to make sure that you're wearing a pair of gloves and also a pair of safety glasses. That way, if any fluid does leak out or does kind of go over the place, you are protected from that. The Power Beyond kit is 2 lines. Once those are unhooked, you're going to end up tying those lines back into each other. The backhoe has a male and female end. The tractor has a male and female end. You'll see when I unhook them, I'm just going to tie them and loop them back into each other. The Power Beyond kit, the hydraulic line, you're going to simply pull back on the coupler and you're simply going to release that right there. So like I said, you are going to get some fluid that does get released. Like I said, if any kind of pressure is on that, that's when you can get that that little spurt of fluid. So you want to make sure that you're wearing eye protection as well as hand protection. Same deal with the other line. We're going to go ahead and unhook that just like that. The two lines on the Power Beyond kits, we're going to tie them into each other. So we're going to go ahead and hook that one in, as well as this one right here. Just like that. And there you have it. That is the backhoe removal on the 1025R, the 260B backhoe. I do want to talk about a couple things here real quick when it comes to storage of the backhoe itself. It does depend too whether or not you're doing a long-term storage versus a short-term storage. There are different ways that you can say make this a little bit easier to move it around. Should it be a long-term storage and you take it off in a garage, I do have customers that will take these backhoes and they will lower them down onto like a furniture hauler. The owner's manual will recommend that if it is any type of long-term storage, you place 2x4s or wooden blocks underneath of it to keep it off the ground. You don't want it sitting directly on the ground. Also too, if you're putting this away for a long-term storage, make sure that you're greasing all the fittings. Make sure that you are also taking a very light amount of film of grease and you are actually coating your cylinders as well. If you are storing it outside, make sure you take a waterproof cover it up. That way you prevent any kind of corrosion or any type of rust from building up. At this time, we're going to go ahead and put the backhoe back on. All right, guys, so we're getting ready to put the 260B backhoe on here. A couple things, you're going to want to line yourself up as good as possible with the backhoe. You're not just like me who just kind of pushed it forward and we're just backing straight up again. You're going to be going out and doing work, so you might be off center a little bit. Main idea is just get your back end up as close as possible within that 5 to 8 inches again. We're going to hook up the hydraulics first. After we hook up the hydraulics, we're going to step into doing everything in reverse. We're going to be using the stabilizers and the boom to raise the backhoe up, as well as drive the tractor backwards a little bit to get it to touch, and then lower the backhoe onto the subframe right there. So let's go ahead and hook up these hydraulics first. That's going to be the first step. So same as before, we're going to unhook the male and female end from the backhoe, as well as the male and female end from the tractor itself. So one thing to note here too, and I forgot to mention this when we took the backhoe off, is always keep a rag with you. You will see that you will get some drippage of hydraulic fluid. That's just going to be normal. That's the way that it happens. Go ahead and hook your hydraulic lines up on both sides so they're connected. Make sure they're good to go. Next step here is going to be going ahead and starting up the tractor. Once the tractor is started up, we're going to come back here to the backhoe itself and we're going to raise it up in the air. All right, so like I said before, we're effectively going to do everything in reverse. We're going to want to go ahead and lower our stabilizers down. And we're going to want to make sure we unlock our main boom. And we're going to raise the main boom up a little bit, as well as the stabilizers. All right. So here's where we want to check to make sure that we're high enough, that our pins for the backhoe, and there's the subframe right there, that we're high enough that we're going to clear that. Now I kind of went up a little high. You don't have to go as high as I did. But you want to make sure that you clear that. Once that's done, we're going to get back on the tractor here and we are going to back ourselves slowly while watching that to make sure that we actually come in contact with that. So let's jump on the tractor here real quick. I like to keep the tractor in low range. That way we can easily see. And also the hydrostatic transmission is not jumpy. And what we're going to do is we're going to back straight up. Watching our hydraulic lines. Just like that. All right, so once we back the tractor up enough that the frame of the backhoe itself is hitting the subframe that's on the tractor, we want to use our main boom right here to go ahead and lower it down onto the mounts. Now, if you remember, when we took it off, we raised that boom up and that pulled that backhoe up like this. We want to drop this down and that'll push that backhoe down onto the subframe part. So what we're going to do is take our main control here. We're going to slowly push the main boom down, so we're going to take the control and move it forward as we watch our frame All right, so this is actually kind of a good thing here real quick. So you'll see how when I went ahead and pushed that forward, the backhoe frame did not, well, it went down, but it didn't fully go in the cradle correctly. So we're off by a couple inches. That will happen. That's nothing to get worried about. What you're going to do here is you're just going to keep an eye on it. You're going to raise it up ever so slightly, and we're going to back the tractor up a little bit more. So what you're going to have to do is get back on the tractor, back it up a little bit more, just because when we lowered that boom down, it kind of skidded forward a little bit. So let's move the tractor back a little bit more. Right about there. All right, taking our look, it looks like we're a little bit closer now. Same deal, we're going to go ahead and drop our boom down. And also our stabilizers down a little bit. There you go. Sometimes you do have to play between the stabilizers and the main boom in order to get it to start to go down in that cradle for the subframe. Once we start to see that that goes down a little bit, right like that. So like I said, sometimes it is a play with the boom and the stabilizers themselves, working hand in hand, but that will get them to rest in there. Now, the next step is going to be using the main boom themselves to line up our holes right here for our pins. We want to make sure we get those pins inserted before we raise the stabilizers up. We want to get those in to lock it in place. So we're going to continue to push down on that, on the main boom, until it looks like we're right about where we need to be for your pins. We're going to take the pins and insert them. Give them a little wiggle if they don't go in perfectly. Make sure that that lock on the pin drops down. We're going to do the other side as well. As you can see, that's through there as well. At this time, the backhoe's on with the subframe mount right here. We're going to go ahead and raise these up, get them to the lock position. We're also going to raise up on our main boom, and we're going to make sure that we put that in the lock position as well. Go ahead and lock it here. And of course we can curl the bucket in if we want to. All right, and the backhoe is on the tractor now. It's fully secure with the mounting pins. We're all good to go and finish up here. All right guys, so that's going to conclude our tutorial here of how to remove as well as install the John Deere 260B backhoe. As I stated before here in the beginning of the video, keep in mind that this does pertain to the 260 as well. You know, there are some differences with those pins of the unlock of the boom and also the stabilizer, but the procedure itself effectively is the same. As always too, your owner's manual will be something that does explain all this information again, or you can just rewatch this video, but as always, refer to your owner's manual for any questions that you might have, or your local dealer as well. Always remember your PPE, your personal protective equipment, especially when removing and installing anything that has to do with hydraulics. Safety glasses and gloves are a must. Thank you for joining me here. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button down below, subscribe to our channel. We're going to be putting out more tips and tricks for your equipment and how-tos here from Deere Country Farm and Lawn.